Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Chapter 71, in the Tier 4 battlefield, above the clouds. After a whole day of fighting, all the monsters in the Tier 4 battlefield were basically killed or injured. Even if there were only a few remaining monsters and monster-level creatures. At this time, the Heavenly Deo 10,000 Tribulations ranking is also clearly displayed on the system interface. The battlefield points of the major powerhouses on the ranking list are refreshed almost at a rapid speed. Among the list, this terrifying data change also indicates that the battle is fierce and tragic. Especially the three of Kangfang, Yewuchen, and Tun Tian, whose points have skyrocketed from over 100 million to over 200 million in just over an hour. Taking Kangfang as the most, it has increased to 300 million at this time, which is only half of Zhang Heng's 670 million. Zhang Heng's eyes narrowed slightly. It seemed that this competition for other battlefields had already begun to enter the final battle ahead of time. On the other hand, the Tier 4 battlefield seemed surprisingly calm. Forget it, if you want to fight, let's fight. Zhang Heng moved his body and stepped into the void. The point competition in the Tier 4 battlefield is up to him? A moment later, the Tier 4 battlefield also fell into endless killing and panic. Below the heavenly battlefield, a woman in Xingyi looked at Zhang Heng's rapidly changing battlefield points on the Tiandao Myriad Tribulations ranking. Her pretty face changed instantly, and she almost ran away quickly without thinking, away from the heavenly god pillar. Since she was instantly killed by Zhang Heng with a sword yesterday, she almost closed her eyes and felt a sword light across her neck, making her feel chilly all over her body. This terrifying feeling made her unable to have the slightest desire to compete. What's more, the best treasure in her body was taken away by the other party. Even if she wanted to, she lost the capital to compete with it. And she believed that even with the three-color dragon protecting her body, she might not be able to hide from this man's swordsmanship. Therefore, at this moment, you can hide as far as you can. It is best to hide in a corner where there is no one, so that he can't find himself, or he can't think of her at all. 2 hours later, in the Tier 4 battlefield, more than 2,300 people were awarded heads by Zhang Heng's sword, and the battlefield points directly increased by more than 370 million, and the total score reached a terrifying billion. Blue Wind's battle points also soared all the way, reaching a height of 450 million. Yewuchen came next with 410 million, swallowing the third, 370 million. At this time, there were still about 8 hours before the end of the trial. The robbers in the Tier 4 battlefield were basically slaughtered. The only pity is that the woman named Hua Yuerong has not met, otherwise the seed points can be increased. After he couldn't find an opponent in the Tier 4 battlefield, Zhang Heng had no choice but to settle for the next best thing and enter the Tier 3 battlefield again through the Tiandao battlefield interface. When Zhang Heng came to the 3rd Tier Heaven battlefield again, he found that the monsters and demons in the battlefield had not been cleaned up, and the robbers were still killing enemies in the battlefield. He suddenly didn't notice that Zhang Heng, who was like a death the arrival of the person. A moment later, the entire Three Realms battlefield was howling. In the clouds, Ling Xiaotian seemed to have sensed Zhang Heng's arrival, and his whole body was frightened. He was about to catch the opportunity and escape, but in the next moment, a golden light flashed in front of his eyes, and in the next moment, his eyes widened. Once black, the entire soul is completely dragged into the infinite depths. Half an hour later, the entire Tier 3 Heaven Realm battlefield was completely cleaned up of those who should be robbed. There were more than 3,700 people in total, and the points they gained were much more than the 2,300 people in the Tier 4 battlefield, reaching the terrifying CE. In other words, an average of 110,000 points were obtained per person. As a result, Zhang Heng's total points reached a terrifying 1.4 billion, while Kangfang's total points were less than 600 million. The gap widened again. 9th Order Celestial Battlefield. After several hours of continuous battles, the entire 9th Tier Heavenly Realm battlefield has been beaten to pieces at this time, and it is almost impossible to see the original appearance. A giant dragon with a length of 10,000 meters stretches across the void, but at this time it has lost its former style, not to mention cuts and bruises all over its body. The golden dragon blood has almost flowed into a river of blood, and most of the dragon scales on its body have been damaged. Even the dragon horn on the head was cut off. But no matter what, in the face of the powerhouses of the heavens and all races, he won after all, gaining a total of nearly 500 million battlefield points. However, when he saw the points on the Tiandeo Myriad Tribulations ranking, the whole dragon body fell into deathly silence. Zhang Hong, who are you? How dare you take my chance? Even if I, King Feng, don't reincarnate in this life, I will tear you to pieces. The terrifying roar shattered the sky, and the roar of thunder resounded throughout the heavenly battlefield. The powerhouses of all heavens and 10,000 realms were silent when they heard this roar, and no one dared to make a sound. The next moment, the terrifying dragon power that was originally overwhelming suddenly disappeared, which surprised the powerhouses of the heavens. Mirong Ryukui looked into the depths of the void. He knew that Kang Feng had already left the 9th level battlefield at this moment, and if nothing happened, he should have entered his own level, the 1st level battlefield. As expected of the legendary Holy Dragon of Heaven and Earth, he surpasses and overwhelms the powerhouses of all heavens and myriad realms with his own power, so strong that he is so strong. But I never thought that even someone as strong as Blue Wind would eventually lose to a 1st level robber responder is really a bit ironic. Well, maybe it should be called a 2nd level robber responder now, but is there any essential difference between the 1st level and 2nd level robbers? Mirong Ryukui murmured to himself, but the final defeat didn't make him too depressed, because even if he lost half of his battlefield points, he still ranks 9th in the list of heaven and earth, and is still in Maida's list. And King Feng is still the 2nd child after all. Nothing has changed much. Why should he be depressed? In the 8th level battlefield, Tun Tian, who has gone through many bloody battles, is also covered in injuries. Although his heaven-swallowing divine art is invincible, but this skill is too domineering, and the cooldown time is too long, making it impossible for him to use it multiple times. And for a long time. Therefore, after gaining the absolute upper hand for a short time, they soon fell into a passive position. Although he finally counter-killed wave after wave of attackers, it also made him exhausted and injured. At this moment, when he was planning to find a place to heal his wounds, he suddenly felt something in his heart, and his eyes looked towards the far-reaching direction of the void as if piercing through the void. In the unknown void, a cyan figure came through the sky. Wherever this person passed, the world was silent, as if he was completely under the pressure of terror, making it impossible for people to raise their heads. Tun Tian's eyes were fixed, and his cynical face finally showed absolute dignity. The moment this induction came, he already knew that the existence known as the Holy Dragon of Heaven and Earth was coming. Zhao, Zhao. In a short while, Blue Wind has already penetrated the endless and far-reaching void, and appeared in front of Tunshan. Tunshan, I will give you 2 choices. One is to let me kill 3 times, and the body will disappear, and the other is to let me kill once, and then you go to the 7th level battlefield to take half of Yawuchen's points. Let me kill it again, otherwise I don't mind going to your swallowing abyss to completely wipe out your emperor's clan. Tun Tian's eyes were fixed, and he sensed an unprecedented force of oppression. He said in a deep voice, even if I give you all the points of me and Yawuchen, I can at most be equal to that person. How can you beat him? Kang Feng said lightly, this is my business, it has nothing to do with you, you just need to tell me your answer. Tun Tian took a deep breath, and said slowly, I choose the second one. Very wise choice. In the next moment, Tunshanzi felt that the whole world was frozen in an instant, and even his heaven-swallowing divine art could not be activated. In a blink of an eye, he only felt that his eyes were darkened, and his soul was drawn into the endless and profound void. Chapter 72 of Space with only a 2nd level body. You are indeed a genius among the human race. But that's where it stops. In an instant, the figure of King Feng also penetrated the endless void and appeared in front of Zhang Hong. He stretched out a finger and stroked the void. A creepy feeling flooded the whole body in an instant. This feeling was as if death had come in an instant. At the critical moment of life and death, Zhang Hong didn't dare to hesitate for a moment. The Tianya demon-slaying sword struck out in an instant, and the heaven-severing sword that contained the void sword Dao was cut out in an instant. The void seemed to collapse under this sword in an instant, and the Zhantian sword, which contains 100 times the increase in swordsmanship, has definitely reached the realm where a sword can cut the sky in the true sense. In an instant, Kang Feng also felt an unprecedented danger, and his figure immediately escaped into the void without hesitation, but the next moment, the void froze under the sword glow. Wanting to borrow the way of space to escape from the void in front of the void sword Dao is simply a dream? This is the swordsmanship that contains the avenue of space. Chapter 73. Kang Feng felt a chill in his heart, and almost transformed into his main body without even thinking about it. In an instant, a terrifying giant dragon with a length of more than 1,000 meters stretched across the sky and the earth, and the huge golden longan eyes emitted a myriad of divine lights, sacred pupils of heaven and earth. In an instant, the entire world, time and space, seemed to be frozen. However, the light of the golden pupil was only blocked for a moment, and after a moment, the divine light of the golden pupil burst and turned into countless golden dust. The blue dragon flicks its tail. In the void, a huge dragon's tail came across the void, almost hitting Zhang Heng's sword. I only heard the horrible sound as if the whole void was broken. The huge cyan dragon tail burst out with blood at this moment, and Zhang Heng's figure was blasted hundreds of thousands of feet into the void even with his sword. A feeling of being torn apart flooded his whole body, and he couldn't help but open his mouth to spit out a mouthful of reverse blood in the void. Kang Feng was also having a hard time. A sword mark several tens of feet long appeared on the tail, almost cutting off his dragon tail, and the golden dragon blood sprayed the sky. Faced with such a serious injury, Kang Feng didn't seem to notice it. The huge dragon head looked directly at Zhang Heng with a pair of golden eyes coldly, and said slowly, "The mere second-order body has comprehended the Dao of space and integrated swordsmanship into it. Among them, I have to say that you are a rare talent in the human race. But it is a pity that your path to genius will be cut off today." Zhang Heng opened his mouth to spit out a mouthful of blood again, and said slowly, "Are all the people of your dragon clan like you? Haven't you heard that villains often die because of talking too much?" Kang Feng's eyes turned cold, and in an instant, thousands of rays of light erupted from his body, as if lighting up the entire void. There is no doubt that this move will definitely be an earth-shattering blow, far better than talent. Zhang Heng didn't dare to hesitate, raised the Tianya Demon Slayer sword and pointed it at the sky in an instant. In an instant, the whole world seemed to freeze instantly, and an unprecedented breath enveloped the world. Kang Feng seemed to sense something. His eyes looked up at the void in disbelief. But in the next moment, a sword glow cut down Jushin in an incomprehensible way. Void sword? Heaven? Kang Feng only felt his soul tremble, as if his entire soul was instantly knocked down into the abyss, and half of it was chopped off. The next moment, its huge dragon body couldn't help but twitched all over, and the mouthful of golden dragon blood spurted wildly. And down. Looking down, he realized that he had been cut in two from head to tail. With the combination of void swordsmanship and heaven-killing swordsmanship, heaven can also be punished. If Kang Feng was still an 8th level holy dragon, he would not be afraid of this sword. But at this moment, he had already cut his own cultivation base, and his body strength had also dropped to the 2nd level state. With this sword, even the body of a holy dragon can't resist it. But even so, Kang Long still didn't die because of this. Only 10,000 rays of light emerged from its body, and the severed body began to heal slowly, as if it was about to be reborn against the sky. However, his body had just healed less than half, and his body broke again, and the Tianzu sword energy containing the infinite void swordsmanship was destroying his body, preventing the body of the holy dragon from healing. Countless dragon blood flowed across the entire sky in an instant, and a long golden river gathered on the ground below the void. Zhang Hengqiang lifted his weak body and stepped out of the sky slowly. The life energy was released directly at this time, instantly healing the wounds in his body, and he had already returned to the peak state in a blink of an eye. Blue wind, as I said, villains often die because of talking too much, suffer death. Zhang Heng let out a low growl, and the instant shadow in the void was activated instantly. The purple electric blue frost and streamer were activated instantly, leaving his figure in the void with only a light and shadow that was difficult to distinguish with the naked eye. Kill. The void sword Dao was attached to the flowing light sword again, and the terrifying sword glow directly chopped off towards Kang Feng's head. Kang Feng, who was already seriously injured and on the verge of death, had no time to dodge and resist, and the huge dragon's head had already fallen into the void with the falling of the Flowing Light Sword Light. Congratulations to you for killing the level 29 Super God level Demon Clan Blue Wind Sacred Dragon, and you have obtained 2 million upgrade energy points. Congratulations, all things have been absorbed successfully, gaining 210 points of strength, 220 points of agility, 220 points of spirit, 210 points of constitution, and obtaining SSS level talent Sacred Pupil of Heaven and Earth. Obtained SSS level talent Time and Space Divine Power Sacred Pupils of Heaven and Earth. SSS level the exclusive supernatural talent of the Holy Dragon Clan, can use the power of double pupils to penetrate time and space, observe the nature of heaven, earth, and all things, reverse time and space, and transcend time and space. Space-time divine power, SSS level the exclusive supernatural talent of the Holy Dragon Clan. It has the power to freeze space and time, and it is beyond time and space. Note, the power of freeze frame space needs to understand the talent of space control to open it, and the power of freeze frame time you need to comprehend the talent of time control to open it. Congratulations on killing the second level responder, Blue Wind, and plunder the opponent's battlefield points. Heaven and Earth Holy Pupil, Time and Space Power. Seeing these two talents, Zhang Heng was completely stunned. They are all supernatural powers that master time and space, and even the exclusive supernatural powers of the Holy Dragon Clan. Zhang Heng couldn't believe it. Could it be that the exclusive supernatural power can also be absorbed? Logically speaking, if it is not the same race, it is impossible to plunder the other party's talent. Just like the Windborn Beast's talent of living with the wind, even if he kills 10,000 Windborn Beasts, it is impossible to plunder it. After pondering for a moment, Zhang Heng decided to try to use it first. The next moment, Zhang Heng only felt a ray of golden light flash in his eyes, and in an instant, the entire universe seemed to be different. In his eyes, everything in the world presents a strange light golden color at this moment. In the void, thin lines of different colors fill every corner of the void, and these threads seem to connect the whole world together to form a whole. Ask for flowers. Not only that, but he can also penetrate the endless and far-reaching void and see a more distant world, where the power of his divine sense cannot reach at all, but he can clearly see it through these eyes. However, about 10 seconds later, Zhang Heng suddenly felt some unbearable pain in his eyes, so he had to stop observing immediately. Zhang Heng silently counted the time, and the exact time was about 12 seconds, and one more second was too much for the eyes to bear. But after trying in this way, Zhang Heng's mind suddenly settled. In this way, he can also use the supernatural talents of the Holy Dragon Clan, but the time of use is relatively short. It is said that the Huaxia tribe has the blood of the ancient dragon and is the descendant of the dragon. Sure enough, the ancients did not deceive me. With a murmur, Zhang Heng couldn't help but chuckled. This time, Kang Feng lost his wife and lost his army, a big loss. But Zhang Heng doesn't intend to stay here any longer, because a battle of this level is impossible. Kang Feng's own strength is definitely far superior to his own, but he didn't know his roots in the initial battle, so he capsized in the gutter. Let's do it again, Zhang Heng. There is no absolute certainty to win the opponent. Therefore, Zhang Heng decided to avoid the edge for the time being. As for Kang Feng's corpse, it was taken back by heaven at the moment of death, turned into light and disappeared. Even the dragon's blood that fell on the ground disappeared without a trace, otherwise some dragon's blood could be used as materials. In a blink of an eye, Zhang Heng had disappeared in place, but he didn't know that just after the battle ended, it caused a shock and tsunami in the entire proving ground. Almost all the candidates who were observing the Heavenly Dao 10,000 Tribulations list were completely dumbfounded. At this moment, Zhang Heng's battlefield points have accumulated as high as 2.15 billion points, an instant increase of 450 million points. But Blue Wind suddenly halved it, falling to 450 million. In other words, it was Kang Feng who died, and half of his battle points were taken by Zhang Heng. But Zhang Heng is obviously only a second-level robbery responder. How could he capture Blue Wind, who is an 8th-level robbery responder? The second level cuts the 8th level, and it is also a divine beast of heaven and earth like the Blue Wind Sacred Dragon. It is simply a joke in the world. However, the robber responders who observed carefully discovered that Kang Feng was downgraded to a second-level robber responder at some point. In other words, in order to snatch Zhang Heng's battlefield points, Kang Feng forcibly cut himself down and downgraded, but in the end he was killed by Zhang Heng, which caused such a result. Aware of this outcome, all the responders in the 9th level battlefield who guessed the situation were stunned. The Blue Wind Sacred Dragon who swept the entire 9th level battlefield with an 8th level body was beheaded by Zhang Heng, who was number 1 in the celestial list. At the same level, what is it about Zhang Heng, who is number 1 on this day's list, so divine that he has such supernatural powers? At this moment, almost everyone couldn't help but guess Zhang Heng's identity. Chapter 74. Even being able to kill the legendary Blue Wind Sacred Dragon, our human race still has a proud existence. Now that the outside world is killing countless people, the future of our human race may finally fall on this sun. The Blue Wind Sacred Dragon is the bloodline of the legendary Heaven and Earth Sacred Dragon, the Creator Dragon. It is the only one left in the world. I never thought that it would still lose to Zhang Heng. Why is Zhang Heng so sacred? After you go out, you must find out the origin of Zhang Heng. Such a proud man, even if you can't make friends, you must not be an enemy of this person, otherwise, Blue Wind Sacred Dragon will end. I am afraid that the legendary treasure of chaos will finally fall on this sun, the treasure of chaos. According to legend, it is the treasure that was conceived in the chaos when the heavens and the earth first opened, and any one of them has the power to defy the sky, but I don't know it. Which one will the sun get? Blue Wind, you overwhelmed the heavens and the world with your own 307, but you never thought that you would eventually be defeated by the human race at the second order level. After leaving this ancient battlefield, let me see how you can escape. You just wait to meet the wrath of the powerhouses of the heavens and the world. In the battlefields of all levels, countless voices resounded in the living room of heaven and earth. Time passed bit by bit, and this final struggle and killing was still going on in many places. A moment later, the avenue bell rang, and the sound of heaven seemed to come from the depths of the universe again. The trial of myriad tribulations is over. The ancient battlefield will be closed soon. The top 100 people on the Tiandao myriad tribulations list will get a chance of Tiandao, and the reward will be issued immediately. The sound of the heavenly way came to his ears, and Zhang Heng immediately breathed a sigh of relief. In a blink of an eye, he had already separated from the battlefield and returned to the first 10 chaotic personal areas. As soon as the voice of heaven fell, a multicolored light instantly descended from the sky and landed on Zhang Heng's body. Congratulations, you have obtained a copy of Heavenly Dao Chance. The reward is being randomly selected. Ding! Congratulations on getting the chance to upgrade any of the exercises to the God level. Elevate any one of the exercises to the God level. Zhang Heng was shocked and immediately became excited. Any one of the exercises can be promoted to the God level. Doesn't that mean that 9 turns of Xian Gong, Heaven Extinguisher Sword, Sword of Sword and so on can be promoted to the God level, and there is no limit to the level? Right now, Zhang Heng almost used this opportunity directly on Sword of Heaven and Extermination. Because Sword of God's Extinguishing Heavens is the most powerful and also the most mysterious one, once it is promoted to the God level, its absolute power is infinite, and it can become the bottom of the box. However, after a short period of excitement, Zhang Heng calmed down again. Because Sword of Heaven and Extermination has the ability to be promoted, it will definitely be able to be promoted to the God level in the future. It is undoubtedly the biggest waste to use this opportunity for this skill. 9 turns mysterious art? Once this technique is cultivated to the level of a great god, it is said that the golden body is indestructible. If it can be promoted to the God level, it will be even more against the sky. But Zhang Heng still hesitated for a moment. There is no other reason, because it is too difficult to practice 9 turns mysterious art, and it will be even more difficult after being promoted to the God level. But now his only shortcoming is undoubtedly in the cultivation of mind. Although Taigzu Swallowing Spirit Ju is an A-level ground-level cultivation method, it is extremely weak compared to others, which is the reason why this cultivation method is rarely paid attention to on weekdays. However, according to the introduction of the system, Taigzu Swallowing Spirit Art is the inheritance technique of the ancient spirit swallowing Protoss, and it must be an extremely powerful existence. If this technique is raised to the God level, I don't know if there will be a more heaven-defying effect. After pondering for a while, Zhang Heng finally decided to use this opportunity on Taigzu Swallowing Spirit Art. Because no matter what the situation is, One's own strength is the real strength, and the higher the realm, the higher the requirements for martial arts and martial arts. If there is no strong foundation, even if one obtains a heaven-defying artifact in the future, one may not be able to use it. With this in mind, Zhang Heng no longer hesitated and immediately placed this opportunity on the Taigzu Tunling Ju technique. Ding! Congratulations on your success in using the exercise to improve your chance. The ground-level top-grade Taigzu Swallowing Spirit Ju will be advanced to the God-level exercise Taigzu True Spirit Ju Taigzu True Spirit Art Grade, God-level top-grade explanation of the exercises, one of the 3 core inheritances of the primordial spirit swallowing God clan. The exercises are free and unconstrained, and they can continuously absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, magic energy, and the energy of the 5 elements in the void for cultivation. And the spiritual power has been promoted to God-level spiritual power. Congratulations to your ground-level top-grade Taigzu Swallowing Spirit Ju for successfully advancing your skills. You have converted it to a God-level top-rank Taigzu True Spirit Ju and obtained the rewards of the exercises, all attributes plus 1000, root bone strength plus 20% additional $. Level opening skill, Taigzu Body Protection. Taigzu Body Protection, SS level. When sensing danger, Taigzu True Spirit Art will protect the master by itself, condensing a Taigzu Body Protection energy, which can absorb 50% of the damage, and has a 10% chance of being immune to normal physical damage, magic damage, because the total amount and strength of your spiritual power in Taigzu Swallowing Spirit Ju cannot meet the requirements of the second stage of Taigzu True Spirit Ju. The realm will automatically drop to the first stage. The realm of the skill has fallen, the level will not be affected, but the upgrade energy cannot be obtained, and the realm needs to be recultivated to the second stage to continue to obtain upgrade energy. God-level spiritual power. The strength of the aura suddenly surpassed several major levels, and directly promoted to the God level, which is definitely an existence that defies the sky. Moreover, Taisu Zhen Lingju can automatically absorb the energy of heaven and earth to practice, which means that he can practice automatically even when he eats and drinks water, and there is no need to deliberately meditate. This is simply a great blessing for him. Seeing this, Zhang Heng couldn't help secretly rejoicing that he chose Taigzu Swallowing Spirit Art to improve, otherwise such a good thing would have happened to him. A moment later, the voice of heaven came again. The 0.0 top 100 rewards of the Tiandao Myriad Tribulations list have been distributed. The top 10 players on the Heavenly Dao 10,000 Tribulations list will get a Dao opportunity, and the rewards will be issued. Immediately, in an instant, a rainbow light of 7 colors fell from the sky and landed on Zhang Hengzhou's body again. Congratulations, you have obtained a chance of the Great Dao, and the rewards are being drawn randomly. Ding! Congratulations on getting the Great Opportunity Artifact, Absolute Immortal Sword, Extreme Immortal Sword, one of the 4 swords of Jade Immortals. It was originally owned by the Sage of Jijiao, Master Tongtian. With this sword, you can have a chance to obtain the other 3 swords, and reorganize the Zuxian Sword Formation. Extreme Immortal Sword Grade, Heaven's number 1 weapon attribute, unknown equipment requirements, Heavenly Wonderland, requires refining to use. Chapter 75 Absolute Immortal Sword. One of the legendary Zuxian 4 swords? Zhang Heng was horrified. This thing is the legendary weapon of the Heavenly Dao, the treasure of killing and cutting, and the reward of the Dao chance is actually such a heaven-defying thing? Zhang Heng can't imagine, but he is only at the 2nd level now, how can he control such a treasure? In the blink of an eye, a peerless divine sword overflowing with light suddenly appeared in the chaotic space. It is the legendary Absolute Immortal Sword. The moment Zhang Heng saw the sword, he was so attracted by it that he could hardly move his eyes. As a kendo practitioner, the legendary 4 swords of Zuxian is definitely the treasure you dream of in this life. It's just that this thing is the legendary treasure of heaven and earth, and the minimum equipment requirement is the Golden Immortal Realm. How can he, a 2nd level cultivator, handle this sword? However, as soon as this thought came up, the Juexian sword suddenly turned into a stream of light and fell into the center of his eyebrows, and then disappeared. Zhang Heng couldn't help touching his forehead, and there was no wound, but the sword had definitely entered his body along his forehead, but he couldn't seem to sense his existence. With a thought in his mind, he couldn't help sinking the power of his divine sense into the sea of consciousness. After a while, he sensed an aura like an abyss like the sea rising and falling in his sea of consciousness, but his divine sense couldn't get close at all. It was as if the Sword 19 had occupied the magpie's nest, directly occupying his sea of consciousness. The top 100 rewards for the 10,000 tribulations list have been distributed. The person who ranks first on the Heavenly Deo 10,000 tribulations list will get a piece of Chaos Supreme treasure, and the reward will be issued immediately. A ray of majestic light fell from the sky, and the next moment, Zhang Heng seemed to be in the endless void. Congratulations on obtaining the Chaos Supreme treasure. Chaos Orb, Chaos Supreme treasure, Heavenly Deo level, born in chaos, contains a chaotic world, contains 49 layers of restrictions, and is listed as the 4 chaotic treasures together with the sky-opening axe, chaotic green lotus, and fortune jade plate. Chaos Orb is the most precious treasure of heaven. It cannot be stored in the world. It is now sealed in the host Danshan Ki. After refining, you can comprehend its magic by yourself. As soon as the words fell, the environment around Zhang Heng immediately returned to normal, and there seemed to be no abnormalities around him. But at this time, there was indeed a strange spirit bead floating in his danshan, in his Chi-Si danshan. This is the treasure of chaos? It seems that this thing, like the absolute immortal sword, is useless now. Zhang Heng suddenly smiled wryly. All rewards have been distributed, and the ancient battlefield will be completely closed after a quarter of an hour. Before the closure of the ancient battlefield, all those who should be robbed after the top 100 on the Heavenly Deo 10,000 tribulations list will have all their memories of these 3 days erased, and all exchange rewards will be recovered. The top 100 robbed candidates on the Heavenly Deo 10,000 tribulations list can keep 1 exchange item as a reward, including exercises, spiritual fruits, spiritual treasures, etc. The top 10 robbed candidates on the Heavenly Deo 10,000 tribulations list can keep 3 exchange items as rewards, including exercises, spiritual fruits, spiritual treasures, etc. The first robbed candidate on the Heavenly Deo 10,000 tribulations list can keep 5 exchange items as rewards, including exercises, spiritual fruits, spiritual treasures, etc. All information on the Heavenly Deo Myriad Tribulations list will be blocked by heavenly secrets, and the relevant information will be erased from the memory of the former 100 responses. The voice of heaven fell again, but Zhang Heng was dumbfounded. So he exchanged so many items, but in the end he could only keep 6 items? After thinking about it, Zhang Heng hastily opened the battlefield point exchange system again. He still has hundreds of millions of points that can be redeemed, so he definitely can't waste it. It is worth mentioning that the battlefield points obtained from killing cannot be used to exchange for items, only the points obtained from killing monsters can be used to exchange. Therefore, regardless of Zhang Heng's more than 200 million points, in fact, only more than 600 million points can be exchanged for items. If you can only keep 9 pieces, then you have to choose carefully. First of all, Sword of Extinguishing Heaven and Extinguishing God has to stay whatever it says. This sword technique can be said to be against the sky. He likes it very much. Secondly, the attached Holy Spirit fruit must also be kept, otherwise the Sword of Heaven and Extermination cannot be cultivated at all. Sword is slightly lower grade. As for the Tianya Demon Slayer sword and other equipment, they are only tier 4, the grade is too low, it is absolutely wasteful to use the opportunity on them. Afterwards, Zhang Heng quickly searched immediately. Heaven and Earth Holy Deo Fruit Grade, Heaven and Earth Holy Fruit Usage Effect. After taking it, there is a chance to obtain high-level talent. Use limit, one-time exchange requirements, 100 million battlefield points. With a move in Zhang Heng's heart, he immediately exchanged for a Heaven and Earth Holy Path Fruit. This kind of thing is definitely a good thing. Heaven Profound Saint Elixir Grade, Heavenly Top Grade Effect of use. After taking it, there is a chance that the cultivation base below the 6th level will be raised by a large realm, including level and realm. The lower the realm, the higher the chance. Exchange requirements, 50 million battlefield points. This thing is definitely a good thing. A pill can save a lot of time. For leveling, taking Shendeo Pill Grade, Heavenly Top Grade Effect of use. After taking it, there is a chance to increase the Taoist cultivation base by 1 level. The lower the level, the higher the chance. Exchange requirements, 50 million battlefield points. Good thing. In this way, The Void Sword body can be directly upgraded by 1 level. Taegsu Kunryu Sword Grade, 9th rank Spirit. Artifact, Mythical Grade Attribute, Unknown Exchange Requirements, 80 million Battlefield Points. Juxiao Shenyuan Sword Grade, 9th rank Spirit Artifact, Mythical Grade Attribute, Unknown Exchange Requirements, 80 million Battlefield Points. Zhang Heng was itchy to see so many magical weapons. After comparing each other, Zhang Heng decided to choose the Taegsu Kunryu Sword. 9. Heaven's Killing God Sword Formation Grade, 9th rank Array, Mythical Rank Explanation. It can inspire 7749 9th level God-killing sword chi to kill the enemy, kill demons and gods, and it will be invincible. Exchange requirements, 200 million battlefield points. The Way of the Sword Formation. Once the sword formation is out, gods block and kill gods, and Buddhas block and kill Buddhas are also extremely powerful existences. Taegsu Shenjo Grade, 9th rank Spirit Treasure, Mythical Rank Explanation. It can be turned into a 1,000-foot-long Shenjo, roaming the void, traveling through the world, and traveling unimpeded. Exchange requirements, 80 million battlefield points. Zhang Heng was dazzled by the exchange of items one by one. After a long while, Zhang Heng made a heartbeat and selected 6 of the items. They are 9 Heavens Killing God Sword Formation, Taekshuan Kunryu Sword, Taegsu Shenjo, Xiantian Saint Immortal Pill, Taking Saint Deo Pill, and a Heavenly Destiny Deo Fruit. Destiny Deo and Heavenly Fruit Grade, Heaven and Earth Holy Fruit Explanation. After taking it, there is a chance to activate the power of destiny and block the Secrets of Heaven. Exchange requirements, 100 million battlefield points. Zhang Heng didn't know exactly what the power of destiny was, but this spiritual fruit could block the secrets of heaven after taking it, so it must be absolutely extraordinary. After getting the item, Zhang Heng took a deep breath and began to gamble on his luck. Ding! Congratulations on taking the Heaven and Earth Holy Deo Fruit. All attribute potential plus 500, Awakening S level talent. Order of Time Sequence of Time, level S. Comprehend the power of time, go back in time, and can control the power of time in a small area by 767. Each use consumes 1000 points of supernatural power per second. Supernatural power. Mental power is advanced to the God level, which is the supernatural power factory. Ding! Congratulations on taking the Taking Shendeo Pill. The first level Void Sword Body, SSS level, has successfully advanced to the second level Void Sword Body. Congratulations on advancing to the second level Void Sword Body, SSS level. Full potential attribute plus 1500, damage reduction 55%, immunity to space attribute damage below level 5. Congratulations on advancing to the second level Void Sword Body, SSS level, and you will get a space talent at random. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the talent, Mastery of Space Elements, SSS level. Ding! Congratulations on taking the Tianming Deo Tianquo, Chi Luck plus 5, turn on Restart the Power of Fate. Power of Destiny, a kind of power of cause and effect. After opening, it can shield the secrets of heaven and have a certain chance of eliminating cause and effect. Luck actually increased by 5 points. Wouldn't it be possible to omit the Holy Spirit fruit and directly choose the Heavenly Mandate and Heaven fruit? If so, you can pick one more thing. However, at this time, the countdown to the closing of the space sounded, and there were not many remaining battlefield points. Gritting his teeth, Zhang Heng decided to keep the sword art of Zhan Tianjian Deo. First of all, this swordsmanship broke my appetite, so I didn't have much time to choose. In the blink of an eye, a quarter of an hour was up, and Zhang Heng quickly made a choice. Reserved items are determined, and all other exchanged items will be recycled. The trial of 10,000 calamities is over, and the trial space is permanently closed. The voice of heaven, which seemed to come from the depths of the ancient prehistoric desolation, came again. As soon as the voice fell, Zhang Heng felt that he was thrown out by a terrifying force. Casually penetrated the void of the endless abyss, and in a blink of an eye, Zhang Heng only felt that he had entered an unknown world. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Chapter 76, Looking Up. There is a fresh and clear sky in front of you. The sky is cloudless, birds are clearly visible, the air is fresh and sweet, and the environment is hundreds of times better than Blue Star. Moreover, the aura of heaven and earth in this world seems to be extremely abundant. As soon as he entered this place, Zhang Heng felt that the Taegsu Zhenling Ju was running freely, frantically absorbing the aura of heaven and earth from the void. The sea of Danshan Qi that had fallen to a level and its aura had dried up slowly filled up accordingly. However, although there is a lot of spiritual energy absorbed at this time, the conversion rate seems to be much lower. Through internal vision, Zhang Heng calculated silently. In the past, 10,000 points of spiritual energy could be converted into 1,000 points of spiritual power, but now only 1 point of spiritual energy can be converted into 10 points of spiritual power. In other words, the spiritual power now is about 1,000 times more pure than it was at the beginning. Zhang Heng is not too clear about the concept of 1,000 times, but the purer the spiritual power, the better. The purer the spiritual power, the stronger the foundation, and the stronger the power of the skills and martial arts used. Afterwards, he checked his condition again, and found that the Tianya Devil Slayer sword and other equipment had disappeared, and the clothes on his body had returned to the appearance before entering the 10,000 Tribulations trial battlefield. Zhang Heng didn't really care about the other equipment. The only thing he regretted was the Tianya Devil Slayer sword. Although the grade of this sword is only the 4th order mythical grade, its attributes and effects are very good. I have killed countless enemies with him in the past few days, and I still feel a little emotional. Now that it disappeared, he felt very sorry. As for Taigzu Kunwu sword, 9. Heaven's killing god sword formation, Taigzu Shenzhou, Tianxian Shengxian pill and other things are naturally preserved. But Taigzu Kunwu sword, 9 heavens killing god sword array, and Taigzu Shenzhou are all 9th level treasures, and they need at least level 60 to equip them, so they can only be temporarily stored in the space ring. As for the Xiantian Saint Immortal pill, Zhang Heng plans to use it after advancing to the 5th level. If you are lucky, you can directly jump to the 6th level. At that time, you can directly use the Taigzu Kunwu sword and the 9 heavens killing god sword formation, and immediately change the shotgun. After counting, Zhang Heng felt relieved, and then looked around, carefully checking the surrounding environment. Looking around, I saw that there was a deserted gobi in front of me, surrounded by rocks, which looked extremely desolate. But Zhang Heng soon noticed the abnormality. Through the perception of spiritual sense, he found that there were many monsters hiding near the sand dunes, and the level seemed to be not low. Sure enough, this world is not very peaceful. Zhang Heng was about to summon Zanyu, but at this moment, 2 sword lights suddenly flew from the distant void. Zhang Heng's heart skipped a beat, and he raised his eyes to see 2 figures, a man and a woman, approaching with flying swords. Flying sword. Zhang Heng couldn't help muttering to himself. It seems that this world is really a world of cultivating truth and immortality. Who are you? Why did you enter the desert of death alone? The 2 of them also seemed to have discovered Zhang Heng, and immediately came to Yujian, and it was the waist who spoke to Zhang Heng. At this time, the girl swept Zhang Heng slightly with her divine sense, and suddenly said in surprise, "Huh? You are an ordinary mortal who hasn't refined qi yet? You are an ordinary mortal. Why did you enter this desert of death? Don't you know that this place is very dangerous?" At this time, Zhang Heng's Danshan Qi spiritual energy was almost exhausted, and the original more than 50,000 points of basic spiritual power had also been transformed into more than 500 points of free and true spiritual energy, which was tens of thousands of points away from the first order circle. Therefore, at most, it is still in the early stage of body training, not even the qi refining stage. Although equipment, rings, and the dazzling ice flame also added spiritual power to Zhang Heng, these were additional additions and had nothing to do with the spiritual power of the body. At most, it was considered to have broadened the total amount of spiritual power, not counting his own spiritual power. Zhang Heng didn't know, in fact, this woman didn't think he was an ordinary person. Because of this, but because the power of destiny shielded the breath in his body, this woman couldn't detect Zhang Heng's cultivation at all, so she thought he was just a normal person. It's just ordinary mortals who haven't practiced. Zhang Heng didn't answer, but asked instead, "This is called the Desert of Death? How dangerous is it?" The girl frowned slightly because Zhang Heng didn't answer her directly, and said, "Yes, it's very dangerous. Under normal circumstances, even a 4th order cultivator would not dare to venture into this place alone." "Not really. Why do you dare to enter the Desert of Death? Is it because you feel impatient to live?" The young man was quite kind, and smiled slightly at Zhang Heng, Don't mind my friend, my junior sister said this because I was anxious. But I was actually worried that you would be in danger here. As he spoke, he pointed to the front and said, in the past, this area was not considered dangerous, but the recent changes in the world and the explosion of aura have caused the strength of the monsters in the entire world to skyrocket, and this corridor has therefore become a dangerous place. If you are not a fourth-order cultivator, it is best not to walk here alone. Sure enough, the fairy world of Taiyuan is also experiencing a murder. The boy suddenly said again, looking at your outfit, you don't seem like a local, right? Where did you come from? Zhang Heng's heart moved, and he said, I came from a remote village, and I planned to come out to seek immortality, but I accidentally lost my way here. Since the two of you came here with swords, you must be the legendary cultivators. Can I recommend one or two to you? I also want to worship in the immortal sect in order to live forever. The young man nodded, and said with a light smile, so that's the case, you are lucky to come here alone through the desert? Now that the world has changed drastically, many people with ordinary aptitudes have awakened their talents before, but it is also true as a result, a large number of immortal seekers have emerged, but the immortal road is not easy to find, and many people have fallen on the road because of this. Moreover, it is not enough to have the talent to be eligible to step into the immortal road. Spiritual roots, it is difficult to make a difference in this life. Spiritual root? What is a spiritual root? The young man smiled and said, spiritual root is the talent of the root bone. If you don't have the talent for cultivation, even if you awaken a good talent, it's useless. Therefore, if you want to join the immortal sect, I suggest you go to test the root of the spirit root first, in order to avoid returning home in the hope of a doctor when he is apprenticed to a teacher in the future. The girl was a little displeased and said, Brother, why are you telling him so much? We still have tasks to do, so we shouldn't delay here for too long. Zhao donkey. The young man waved his hand to Zhang Heng helplessly, and said, if you want to test your spiritual roots, you might as well go to the ancient desert city more than 50 miles to the north. There is a special place for testing spiritual roots, and there are also fairy gates. If you recruit disciples here, you may be lucky enough to recruit one. Zhang Heng moved in his heart and said, thank you for telling me. I don't know where the two of you are from the fairy gate. The young man smiled and said, our sect is called Xianyun Sword Sect, and it doesn't belong to this ancient desert city. It's getting late, we should leave too, farewell. Zhang Heng clasped his fists in a salute. The boy didn't say anything more, and held his swords at the girl's feet. Qualification. Spiritual root. Seeing the direction the two were going away, Zhang Heng pondered for a moment, and decided to go to this ancient desert city to find out the situation for the time being. In any case, one must first understand the situation of this world before considering the next step, so this ancient desert city is undoubtedly the best choice. Chapter 77. Zhang Heng stepped into the void step by step. At this moment, a giant scorpion with a height of 1 or 2 meters suddenly poked its head out from the sand dune, as if it wanted to attack Zhang Heng, but Zhang Heng disappeared in the blink of an eye. I froze in place. Desert Giant Scorpion Grade, Tier 3 Elite Level, 37 Power, 775 Star, 42 stars. After a brief glance, Zhang Heng immediately lost interest. He was only at the 3rd tier elite level, and he killed countless people in the ancient battlefield. With a flick of the fingers, a golden light instantly escaped into the void, and before the giant desert scorpion could react, the scorpion's head was separated and killed on the spot. Congratulations on killing the 37th level elite monster Desert Giant Scorpion and gaining 0 points of upgrade energy. Congratulations, all things have been absorbed successfully, and 50 points of life energy have been obtained. The golden light rolled back, and a crystal clear demonic beast crystal nucleus fell into his hand. It seems that the realm of Taigso true spirit art must be raised as soon as possible, otherwise there will be no experience in killing monsters. Shaking his head helplessly, Zhang Heng no longer hesitated, and with a movement of his body, he flew away in an instant. The sky and the earth have changed, spiritual energy has exploded, and the catastrophe has arrived. The Great Qin Kingdom sincerely recruits righteous soldiers from all walks of life to join the army to fight against the catastrophe. Those who join the army at the 3rd level will receive a monthly salary of 1,000 spirit stones. The monthly salary is 3,000 spirit stones, and those who join the army at the 5th level can be promoted to generals, and the monthly salary is 10,000 spirit stones. My Kinkan sect recruits a large number of disciples. Anyone with a spiritual root of the 3rd grade or above will have the opportunity to join the Kinkan sect and step into the immortal way. 403 Sell the top grade spirit pill. The 2nd grade ascending spirit pill only sells 2 spirit stones, if you want to buy it quickly. Stepping into the ancient desert city, Zhang Heng found that this place is not as desolate as imagined, but full of people and extremely lively. Spirit stone. Zhang Heng was amazed in his heart. This spirit stone sounds like currency, but also like a cultivation resource. Not long after, Zhang Heng came to a restaurant. Have you heard? I heard that the first sect in Dakan, Yishan Sword Academy, will make an exception and open the gate to recruit disciples. It is said that those with spiritual roots above the 5th rank have the opportunity to join Yishanjian Academy. Yishanjian, the courtyard, is a 7th rank sect, and it is well known throughout Taiyuan. Should we also try our luck? You and I are only worthy of the 5th rank spiritual root, so it should be impossible to join the Yishan Sword Academy, right? Why is it impossible? This change of heaven and earth came too timely. You and I are both 5th rank spiritual roots, and both have awakened mysterious talents. They are already considered to be excellent talents among our peers. With luck, maybe we can joining Yishan Sword Academy. It's at least 10,000 miles away to go to Yishan Sword Academy. Even if we go, we probably won't be able to make it in time, right? It's okay, I have already found out that tomorrow at 3 o'clock noon, there will be a flying Shenzhou to Qinluo City. As long as we can successfully board the flying Shenzhou to Qinluo City, 3 days later, Qinluo City will hold the Yishan Sword. As long as we can pass the entrance examination of the academy, we can join the Xiantian Sword Academy. Flying Shenzhou? It costs 100 spirit stones to board the boat, and at least 300 or 400 spirit stones to fly to Qinchinj. Do you have so many spirit stones? I exchanged some spirit stones with monster crystal cores before, and I just made up 400. Don't you still have some monster crystal cores? I also exchanged them, so that the two of us can go together. I have to discuss this matter with my family and I will give you an answer tomorrow morning. It's a mother-in-law. If you don't want to go, I'll ask Ziailing. She will definitely be willing to go. Ziailing? Good. If you can persuade her, then I will go too. In the restaurant, there were 2 teenagers about 18 or 19 years old chatting. Hearing this, Zhang Heng felt his heart move, secretly thinking that the crystal core of monsters can be exchanged for spirit stones. This news is good news for him. Moreover, Qin Luokang and Yishan Sword Academy mentioned in the conversation between the two made him quite concerned. It has to be said that the restaurant is indeed a good place to inquire about news. In a short time, Zhang learned about the situation in the territory of the Great Qin Kingdom. The Great Qin Kingdom, also known as the Great Qin Empire, is one of the countries in the Baikan continent. Its national strength is strong and it can be ranked among the top 5 in the Baikan continent. However, the geographical environment of the Great Qin Empire does not seem to be very good. There are demons in the north who are constantly invading the border, and barbarians are in trouble in the south. In addition, after the outbreak of spiritual energy, monsters are rampant, so that the power of the Great Qin Empire has dropped sharply, and it has reached the point where it has to recruit troops everywhere. Situation. Yishan Sword Academy is the first sect in the Great Qin, and the only 8th rank sect in the Great Qin. It is powerful and the backbone of the Great Qin Empire, so it is also called the protecting sect. I don't know where the teleportation array opened by Lin Hai will lead. Zhang Heng murmured, but it's a pity that this place is too remote after all, and he didn't hear the slightest thing about the opening of the lower realm teleportation array. After pondering for a moment, Zhang Heng simply stopped thinking about it, and first exchanged the monster crystal core for some spirit stones. In this fairy world of Taiyuan, it seems impossible to move without spirit stones. 10 low-level monster beast crystal cores can be exchanged for 1 spirit stone. 1 low-level lord monster beast crystal core can be exchanged for 10 spirit stones, and 1 low-level king monster beast crystal core can be exchanged for 100 spirit stones. BJED, in a spirit stone exchange shop, the storekeeper took a slight look at Zhang Heng and said lightly, "Fortunately, the conversion ratio is not too outrageous." After thinking about it, Zhang Nan exchanged 5,000 low-level crystal cores for 500 spirit stones. At this time, he didn't have many crystal nuclei in his hand. At the beginning, because he didn't have a space ring, he couldn't collect many crystal nuclei. All the Lord-level crystal nuclei were given to Li Yukin and the others. Only a few legendary-level crystal nuclei and others were left. A mythical crystal nucleus. Whether it is a legendary or a mythical crystal nucleus, they are extremely rare, and Zhang Heng naturally would not be willing to exchange them. After the delivery was over, Zhang Heng casually took out one and held it in his hand. I saw that this spirit stone was about the size of a fingertip, crystal clear, and faintly exuded a soft aura. Through induction, Zhang could perceive the extremely rich aura contained in this small spirit stone. Low-grade spiritual stone contains 10,000 points of low-level spiritual power, which can be used to assist in cultivation or drive formations. Note: spiritual power below E-level is collectively referred to as low-level spiritual power. After watching it, Zhang Heng felt speechless. After absorbing this thing, it can increase him 10 points of God-level spiritual power at most, which is not as good as his own automatic cultivation in a minute. Putting away the spirit stone, Zhang Heng couldn't help but glanced at the progress of Taigso True Spirit Ju again. At this time, his spiritual power has increased from 500 to about 1,000. According to this speed, it should take 2 days to cultivate to 1,000. The stage is complete. This kind of cultivation speed is already quite fast, but Zhang Heng has a headache. According to this progress, it is estimated that he will have to wait for 10 days and a half months, and there is no way to kill monsters and level up. Leaving the Spirit Stone Exchange shop, Zhang Heng was about to leave, but was attracted by a small stall not far away. The things sold at this small stall are nothing else, just some maps, records of Baikan countries, biographies of people, etc. How do you sell these things? Zhang Heng immediately walked to the stall and asked. The vendor who set up the stall was an 11 or 12-year-old girl. The little girl raised a finger and said, "1 map, 1 low-level monster crystal core, and 1 copy of the other 2 low-level monster crystal cores. It looks a little dark." Zhang Heng looked through the map carefully, and found that the map is quite comprehensive, not only recorded the place names, but also specially annotated, and there are many types of maps, including the general map of Baikan continent, the map of Qin state, and the map of Baihuang etc. Zhang Heng looked at the picture of the northern wasteland and found that the ancient desert city here is actually located in the northern wasteland area, and it is not far from the northern wasteland city that fights against the demons. If you don't buy it, you can't watch it for too long. At this time, the little girl suddenly pursed her mouth in displeasure. Zhang Heng smiled and said, "Of course I will buy it, but can you tell me how far it is from our ancient desert city to Baihuang city?" As he spoke, Zhang Heng pointed between the 2 cities on the map. The little girl frowned and said, "Are you going to Baihuang city? It's very dangerous there, don't go there if you don't have a certain strength. I heard that many big brothers and sisters enlisted in the army and entered the front line of Baihuang. I can come back." Zhang Heng shook his head and laughed. "I just asked how far the journey was, but I didn't say where I was going." The little girl thought for a while, and said, "It seems to be 200 or 300 miles away, but I don't know exactly how much." Zhang Heng asked with a strange expression, "You don't even know that you're selling maps?" The little girl's face was reddish, but her expression was tough. "I'm just selling maps, not drawing them. I don't know what's so strange." Zhang Heng was also speechless. After thinking about it, he didn't feel angry with the little girl. After buying a few maps, a few books of chronicles and biographies of various countries, he got up and left. Chapter 78. After leaving the stall, Zhang Heng looked around the shop for a while, when a shop called Tongxianshuyuan attracted his attention. Tongxianshuyuan. Zhang Heng pondered for a moment before walking into the shop. If you want to understand the world, reading is undoubtedly the fastest. There is Yenruyu in the book, and there is a golden house in the book. Through books, you can learn about the world's culture, history, pattern, worldview, etc. in the fastest way. To Zhang Heng's surprise, the owner of the bookstore was a purple-clothed woman in her 20s. The woman in purple looked Zhang Heng up and down, and said, "Guest officer, what do you want to buy?" Zhang Heng looked around, and suddenly found a book titled Detailed Explanation of Elementary Artifact Refining in the bookshelf and said, "Boss, can you learn the art of artifact refining through this book?" The purple-clothed woman looked back and said with a smile, "That's natural, but it's not easy to refine a weapon. You can't help but need spiritual power to condense the fire, and you also need to master the power of spiritual thoughts. Both are indispensable. Spiritual energy condenses." Zhang Hung thought of his extremely dazzling ice flame. In the system introduction, he clearly said that this fire can be used for alchemy and weapon refining. Zanyu and Shura Minghe's sword were burned by the flames of Futa before, and they were almost melted, so they can be repaired through the art of refining. "How much is this book? Give me the detailed explanation of elementary alchemy as well." The woman in purple turned around and took down the 2 books, and said with a smile, "Each book is worth 10 spirit stones, a total of 20 spirit stones. 20 spirit stones are not expensive." After delivering the spirit stone, Zhang Heng looked around again, and found that most of the books inside were analysis books on various elementary exercises or spells, which were extremely detailed. After pondering for a while, Zhang Heng finally chose to give up. There are not many spiritual stones now, so he needs to save some, otherwise he may not be enough to board the ship tomorrow. After leaving the shop, Zhang Heng found an inn to stay temporarily. With several maps and books spread out, Zhang Heng began to study the situation of this world carefully. I don't know how long it took. When Zhang Heng finished reading the last page of the book, he put away one by one, with a long breath in his mouth. To put it simply, this world is a world of cultivating truth and immortality. It has a long history and has experienced the prehistoric era. Moreover, the ancient prehistoric legends here are surprisingly consistent with the ones spread by Blue Star, but there are slight differences in some details. Therefore, if there is no accident, this world should be the same as Blue Star, which belongs to the world formed after the ancient prehistoric world was broken. However, the immortal realm of Taiyuan has inherited a lot of orthodoxy and inheritance of the ancient prehistoric stage, so the inheritance system is many times more perfect than that of Blue Star. When the Blue Star gradually exhausted its aura and turned into an ordinary mortal planet, the fairy world of Taiyuan was still full of aura, so the inheritance has not been cut off. The entire realm of Taiyuan's immortal realm is extremely vast, at least 100 times larger than that of 100 stars. There are hundreds of small countries in the Baikan continent alone, and they have fought against each other for years and have never been cut off. In addition to Baikan continent, there are Eastern Shengzhou, Western Hezhu, Southern Buzhu, and the most extensive Zhongtian God realm. The territory is vast, and there are countless sects and forces. All sects and forces are divided into 9 grades from grade 1 to grade 9. Among them, the first rank is the lowest, and the 9th rank is the highest. Rank 1 to rank 9 has a strict definition and assessment system, which does not mean that a sect that has rank 9 powerhouses is a rank 9 sect. So far, none of the 9th rank sects is a top sect standing in the world, with a great reputation. Among them, the most famous ones are Zixiao Shenjianzong, Wanfa Shenzong, Haoshenjianzong, Yaokai Zionj, Kunlun Sword Domain, Xianyuan Sword School, Shushan Sword School, and so on. Seeing this, Zhang Heng felt very strange. Many sects in the legend of Blue Star could find a foothold here, which made people marvel at the magic of the world. In comparison, the Yaishan Sword Academy of the Qin state is not very eye-catching in front of these big forces and sects, but within the territory of the Qin state, the Yaishan Sword Academy is the most prestigious existence. After pondering for a moment, Zhang Heng decided to go to Qin Luokang to find out the situation before talking as for how to plan to take 10 steps first and see 10 steps. But improving strength is undoubtedly the most critical thing. Afterwards, Zhang Heng opened the detailed explanation of primary refining equipment and consulted it carefully. This elementary artifact refining detailed explanation is exactly the elementary artifact refining explanation handed down by a sect named Tongxian Sword Sect. It introduces how to choose materials, how to temper materials, how to smelt materials, how to quench, how to condense front, and so on. In addition, forging also needs to master the art of formation symbols and inscriptions. The truly top-notch spirit weapon will incorporate the spell or inscription technique into it, making it contain powerful characteristics. like Blade and Zhanxian on Zanyu, are inscription techniques, which can improve the attack power and defense-breaking effect of spiritual weapons, etc. Zanyu sword dance is the power of array symbols, combining martial arts with arrays. The way of talisman is engraved into the sword, so that the weapon can release swordsmanship and swordsmanship, thereby increasing the power of the spiritual weapon. Inscriptions and talismans are used to engrave them on some top spiritual weapons, but the strength of inscriptions and talismans is related to the grade and material of the spiritual weapon. Asterisk. To put it simply, the better the material, the higher the level of the inscriptions and talismans that can be carried. Especially some mythical level divine weapons are basically refined using top-level divine materials, so that they can become extremely powerful and peerless divine weapons. The only pity is that in the elementary artifact refining detailed explanation, only the first to second grade spirit weapon refining methods, as well as the first grade inscriptions and formation symbols are introduced, and the slightly higher level is not mentioned at all. Zhang Heng couldn't help but smile wryly. It seems that if you want to learn more advanced methods of refining, you can only look for detailed explanation of intermediate artifact refining and detailed explanation of advanced artifact refining. I don't know if Tongxian Shuyuan has these. 2. Feeling slightly moved, Zhang Heng immediately calmed down and studied the contents carefully. A moment later, Zhang Heng flipped one hand and took out Zanyu and Shura Minghe swords. After undergoing the scorching fire of Huodo, the two swords have already shown different degrees of bending, especially the Shura Minghe sword. The entire body of the sword has almost become 45 degrees. 0. After thinking about it, Zhang Heng decided to melt the Azura Styx sword. Firstly, he didn't like the magic energy attached to the sword. Secondly, Zhang Heng needed some refining materials to refine the wings of the golden winged rock into 20 magic weapons. With a thought, a strange ice blue flame suddenly appeared in the sky above the palm of Zhang Heng's right hand. As soon as the flame came out, the temperature in the entire room seemed to drop to freezing point. Zhang Heng immediately controlled the flame, reducing the area it illuminated to within a radius of 1 zhang around his body. Shura Styx's sword turned slightly in the void, and immediately plunged into the ice blue flame. In the blink of an eye, the sword melted into jet black molten iron at a speed visible to the naked eye. It is indeed a third-order extremely dazzling ice flame. At this time, its flame power has surpassed that of Huodo's Qingtian divine flame by a lot. At the beginning, before the Qingtian divine flame was fully released, it burned Zanyu and the sword to the point of being scrapped, but now it is not surprising that the Jixuan Binjian melted it into molten iron in the blink of an eye. A moment later, the black breath in the molten iron turned into nothingness under the burning of the dazzling ice flame, revealing a silvery white luster. Zhang Heng carefully identified these materials, and found that this object seemed to be a top-grade material called Tianshuang silver. Moreover, this material is very rare and can only be found in extremely cold places. After putting Tianshuangjian aside, Zhang Heng immediately took out a few golden winged rock's wing feathers from the ring. If one wanted to refine these wings and feathers into a sword, one would definitely not be enough. To be on the safe side, Zhang Heng took out 10 at once. Afterwards, Zhang Heng sank his heart, and began to work on this feather. Chapter 79. Although the wing feathers of the golden winged rock are feathers, after the continuous tempering of the golden winged rock's body, they are already like golden steel blades. In terms of sharpness and hardness, they are even worse than Zanyu. After being continuously burned by the extremely dazzling ice flames, it slowly melted into a magical substance that looked like gold but not gold, jade but not jade. To be precise, this thing is somewhat similar to the spirit bone of the golden winged rock, but it has a sharper aura than the spirit bone, and even contains a trace of space power. After a quarter of an hour or so, the wing feather finally turned into a golden ball the size of an egg. Continue. An hour later, a golden ball the size of a field egg, placed in front of my eyes. According to the book, refining a weapon requires the balance of yin and yang. Only when the balance of yin and yang is achieved can the materials be perfectly fused together. Hardness and flexibility are indispensable. Too rigid can be easily broken, and too soft will not make a weapon. It's just that the material for smelting the wings and feathers doesn't know what kind of property it is, and what kind of material should be mixed in to make it play a perfect role. Zhang Heng pondered for a long time, but it was because it was his first time refining a weapon. He had no experience and no clue. Forget it, let's treat a dead horse as a living horse, doctor. Anyway, if it's broken, it can be smelted again. If it's not good enough, it's just a waste of 7 wing feathers. There are thousands of such wing feathers on the body of the golden-winged roc. After pondering for a while, Zhang Heng decomposed a small portion of Skyfrost silver and blended it into 7 golden balls. Under the smelting of the dazzling ice flames, the 7 golden balls and a small portion of Skyfrost silver slowly dissolved in the at the same time. He then used his mental power to control the smelted large ball to rotate rapidly in the void to ensure even smelting. After a while, the entire golden ball had a hint of silvery whiteness, and immediately stopped spinning, and then flattened the entire golden ball with the power of divine sense. According to the description in the method of refining weapons, it is best to compress the materials into thin sheets infinitely and then stack and compress them again. After infinite cycles, the sword can maximize its sharpness. A moment later, an extremely huge, but as thin as a cicada's wing, golden round cake appeared in front of his eyes. Zhang Heng immediately superimposed the round cakes with the power of spiritual thoughts, tempered and compressed them. After repeating this for more than 100 times, even Zhang Heng felt that the power of divine sense was consumed too much, and it was a bit unsustainable. After 100 times of superposition, it becomes extremely difficult to quench and quench. It should be almost the limit. Try to condense into a sword. The extremely dazzling ice flame slowly burned the material that had been compressed and tempered more than 100 times, and found that this material became extremely difficult to smelt, and it took a quarter of an hour to barely soften it. With a thought in his mind, Zhang Heng tried to temper and forge the sword using the Tianya Demon Slayer sword as a template. After another half an hour, a weapon that was exactly the same as the Tianya Demon Slayer sword was finally condensed into shape and displayed in front of his eyes. However, this sword has only a style for the time being. It has not been quenched and inscribed, and it has not really become a sword. Quenching is the most critical part of refining divine weapons. It is said that there are many ways of quenching, such as water quenching, ice quenching, and blood quenching. There is no distinction between the 3 tempering methods, who is strong and who is weak, but there is no doubt that the better the material for tempering, the better the effect. With a thought, Zhang Heng directly took out a bowl of golden blood from the golden-winged roc's corpse. The golden blood volleyed in the void, flowing slowly over the blade of the sword like a stream. There was only a clear sound of sword chanting, and a golden flame emerged from the sword body of this sword, which was spectacular. Should it be tempered successfully? Zhang Heng wasn't sure either, but immediately moved on to the next step. He only pointed at a drop of golden-winged roc's blood, and then used his finger as a pen to inscribe runes in the void. In an instant, a golden tadpole-like inscription culture made dots of golden light fall into the sword body. Afterwards, Zhang Heng inscribed the 2nd rune again, saying after the 4th rune was engraved, there was a strange ripple on the sword, indicating that the limit of the inscription had been reached. As for the formation talisman skill, Zhang Heng pondered for a while, and decided to incorporate the sword technique of Zhantian Yujian into it. However, before the sword technique was fully engraved, the 2nd-order magic circle immediately shattered, obviously unable to withstand the might of Zhantian's sword. There is no way. Zhang Heng can only settle for the next best thing and engrave the streamer into it. Fortunately, the inscription was successful this time, otherwise it would only be possible to engrave the Gale Wind sword art. Everything is ready. Just a buzzing sound. A bright sword chant broke through the sky, penetrating every corner within 1,000 meters of the inn. Ding! Congratulations on successfully refining a 2nd-order mythical spirit weapon. You can give this sword a unique name. The system prompt sounded immediately, and Zhang Heng's heart was shocked. He actually refined a mythical level magic weapon. Although it is a 2nd-level weapon, it is definitely far superior to ordinary 3rd and 4th level weapons. In addition to being pleasantly surprised, Zhang Heng did not forget to name it. After pondering for a moment, he slowly carved a pattern in the void, naming it Tianya Zuxian Sword. Ding! The name was successfully named. Congratulations to the host for refining a 2nd-order mythical level spiritual weapon and obtaining an S-level reward. Xiantian Artifact Refining Treasure Record. Xiantian Artifact Refining Treasure Record. one of the core inheritances of the ancient top-level artifact refining sect Xiantian artifact refining sect. Skill Xiantian artifact refining treasure record? Zhang Heng was very excited. The system hadn't rewarded him for a long time, and he didn't expect such an unexpected harvest in the refining tool today. Then Zhang Heng immediately opened the system to check the sword information. Tianyazuxian sword grade, Tier 2 spirit artifact, mythical grade attribute, attack plus 7800 strength plus 450 agility plus 450 attack speed plus 20% damage factor plus 15% ignore defense plus 10% additional feature, sharpness, can increase the wearer's attack power by 10% additional feature, streaming light, it can gather spiritual power on the sword body, making the sword energy like a streamer flash. The speed of appearance is increased by 50%, the speed of movement is increased by 50%, and the damage is increased by 50%. It lasts for 10 seconds. During this period, each sword can cause the opponent's basic attack *400% damage value, and an additional 1.03% ignore defense damage, consumes 550 spiritual power, cooldown. Time 2 hours. Equipment requirements, level 1. After reading it, Zhang Heng couldn't stop smiling wryly. The name of Tianyazuxian sword is more domineering than the original Tianyazumajian, but the attributes are very different, especially the additional status, which is simply horrible. These states are all caused by the low level of the inscription. If the inscription of a higher level is engraved, the attributes must not stop there. Zhang Heng tried to swing the sword, and found that the sword was as light as a feather, as if it had no weight at all, and it felt surprisingly good in the hand. Wei flicked across the void, as if the void was torn apart. It was miraculous. It seems that there are properties. Putting away the sword, Zhang Heng was extremely satisfied. It is already very good to have such an effect when practicing the sword for the first time. Chapter 80. What's the matter with this sword chant? Could it be that there is a strong man fighting? This place is in the ancient city of the desert. There are strict rules and regulations. Who has the guts to do anything in the city? What a pure sword chant! The one who issued this sword cry must be a strong swordsman. Is it the legendary sword cultivator? Inside and outside the inn, countless people looked in amazement at the direction from which the sound of sword chant came. Although everyone was curious, no one dared to disturb or investigate. After all, the one who can make such a sound of sword chant must be a strong swordsman, and there is no need to offend such a strong man just because of curiosity. Not far away, in Tongshan, the woman in purple was slightly taken aback. Others may not be able to hear it, but as a disciple of Tongshan sword sect, how could she not know that this is the sword chant when the weapon is refined into a sword? This sword chant was clear and bright, with extremely strong penetrating power, as if it went straight to the essence of the soul. It was definitely a sword chant that could only be uttered by top magic soldiers. It's just that the sound of the sword chant is not too strong. It should belong to the lower level top magic weapon. But whether it is a low level or a high level top level magic weapon, only the top level master craftsman can refine it, because this has already involved the problem of smelting top level god level materials, and ordinary craftsmen can't smelt this level at all. God material. Only masters of the nascent soul realm and above can do it with the nascent soul holy flame, and it takes a lot of energy and time to succeed. The chance of success is extremely low. But how can there be a great master of refining in this desolate ancient desert city? I didn't expect this small desert ancient city to hide dragons and crouching tigers, but I don't know which great master is cultivating here. Maybe I have to pay a good visit tomorrow. It's a pity that I have to leave tomorrow, otherwise I can still pay respects to this great master. Please tell me. The woman in purple murmured, and couldn't help but look up at the sky. It was getting late at this time. It was really inappropriate to chatter about the other party so late at night, and it was after refining such a top magic weapon. After finishing speaking, the woman in purple inexplicably thought of the boy who bought detailed explanation of elementary artifact refining and detailed explanation of elementary alchemy in the store during the day. She was also quite curious about the boy's strange attire. It could be seen that this person was definitely not a native of the ancient desert city, and even judging from his smooth skin, he should not be from the desert generation, but most likely from the southern generation. But the south is far away from here, thousands of miles away. How could he come from such a rich place to this barren land? Moreover, she felt that this young man seemed to be extremely extraordinary. Although she couldn't see it on the surface, her intuition made her clearly feel that this person was definitely not as simple as he appeared on the surface. It seems that he also went to this inn to rest just now. Could it be that he was the one who forged the magic weapon? Such a bold guess and idea suddenly appeared in the heart of the woman in purple. But after the woman was taken aback by this bold idea, she quickly killed it. How can this be? The other party just bought the detailed explanation of elementary artifact refining from her a few hours ago, let alone whether this person can penetrate this book in such a short period of time, even if he really has completely penetrated it, but wants to use this book to refine it. It is impossible to make a top magic weapon? It is impossible. After another exclamation came out, the whole inn fell into silence again, as if everything just now had never happened at all. Zhang Heng put away a lot of materials and began to study Xiantian Lianbaila carefully. Unknowingly, the night passed quietly. Early the next morning, Zhang Heng stretched out deeply. Since the recovery of spiritual energy until now, he has not had a good rest, and he has not even touched his pillow. It was a rare good night for him to sleep well. The Xiantian refining treasure record has almost been studied, and it should be possible to try to refine the next Tianyazuxian sword. The attributes of the two-handed sword have been improved to a higher level. After muttering to himself, Zhang Heng didn't hesitate, and immediately took out the 7 golden wing feathers and Tianshuang silver again. Holding one hand empty, an ice-blue flame suddenly appeared in the sky above the palm. However, Zhang Heng was not in a hurry to start tempering his wings and feathers, but made a strange formula with his left hand. In an instant, the ice-blue flames turned into dots of starbursts dotted the void. This Xiantian fire control art is really miraculous. After a cry of exclamation, Zhang Heng immediately controlled the flames that turned into dots of stars to sweep towards the 7 golden wing feathers. I saw the flames spinning rapidly in the void, like an ice-blue firebird, indescribably magnificent and magical. The 7 golden wing feathers are also slowly rotating in the center of the ice-blue firebird, dissolving quickly at a speed visible to the naked eye. A moment later, little drops of golden liquid floated among the firebirds. The skyfrost silver on the side also appeared in the void at this moment. A small piece rolled down under the flames and then quickly fell into the edge of the golden droplet. Xiantian treasure refining technique. Zhang Heng gave a soft drink, and in an instant, the golden liquid droplets and the small piece of Tianshuang silver quickly blended in a strange and incomparable way. Fusion, rotation. After all the droplets contained a hint of the luster of Tianshuang silver, all the droplets began to turn into gold foil that was difficult to distinguish with the naked eye. Soon, pieces of gold foil began to overlap in the void, and there were thousands of sheets condensed together, but only a thin layer of blades could be seen, and then the gold foil blades began to scramble in the void again. Superimposed quenching, superimposed quenching. After repeating this for more than 300 times, the blade finally condensed into an unbreakable edge. The ice-blue flame turned into dots of starlight again and entangled on the sharp edge. In a short time, the sword took shape at a speed discernible to the naked eye, condensing into a sharp edge. At the moment when the sword peak was condensed, Zhang Heng flicked his fingers, and a little golden blood streaked across the sword like a sword edge, and an astonishing golden sharp sword light suddenly appeared in the void, exuding sharp amazing breath. The next moment, a drop of golden blood appeared on Zhang Heng's fingertip again, and runes were inscribed in the void. In an instant, a 4th-grade rune condensed in the void as if it appeared out of thin air, turning into a ray of starlight and sinking into the blade of the sword. Then came the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. 0124074119 Philo 1435902230. It wasn't until the 6th inscription was engraved that the sword made a clear sound, indicating that it had reached the limit of tolerance. Immediately afterward, Zhang Heng drew a formation talisman in the void. A golden formation immediately appeared out of nowhere in the void. Zhang Heng put one finger in the depth of the formation talisman, and the first move and the sword were immediately engraved in the formation talisman. The array talisman containing 270 swords of Xiantian instantly turned into a stream of light, submerged into the body of the sword, and turned into bits of radiance. Buzz. A ray of sword light in the void pierced the sky, and the sound of the sword chant pierced through the sky, resounding thousands of meters away. The sharp sword chant seems to be announcing his birth like heaven and earth. Ding! Congratulations on successfully refining a 4th order mythical spirit weapon. You can give this sword a unique name, Tianyazuxian sword. Ding! The name was successfully named Tianyazuxian sword grade. Tier 4 spirit artifact, mythical grade attribute. Attack plus 25,400 power plus 1200 agility plus 1200 plus 1200 attack speed plus 180% damage factor plus 125% ignore defense plus 75% additional feature. Divine Front. Sharp, can increase the wearer's attack power by 50% additional feature. Breaking Void, break the void. You can travel in the void. Speed plus 500% additional feature. Sky Slashing Swords Antian Eugian. Gather the power of Zhantian swordsmanship on the body of the sword. The sword energy is mighty, it can cut the sky and break the earth, and its power is unparalleled. When the sword comes out, it will cause sword damage equal to basic attack 8-10% to a distance of 10-500 meters, and this sword method contains the power of the sword. The attacker is suppressed by the power of the sword, and it is difficult to escape, consuming 20,000 spiritual power. Cooling time 5 hours. Equipment requirements. Level 10. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.